All right, so just a heads up too. So the recording has begun. Welcome everyone to this recording. I wanted to give you all a heads up that the slides that I'm showing here, these are meant to be samples that people can make flip charts from, and that the bulk of the visuals for this training actually are on a service called Prezi, which you probably are familiar with. So when you're looking at a slide, you can imagine it as a flip chart. And when you're looking at Prezi, we're actually encouraging welcome training trainers to use the Prezi as part of this. Sweet. All right. So again, this one's called our community network, and it's meant to walk people through the organizational structure of Seize the Grid. All right. So we learned in the last session that Seize the Grid wants to engage 3.5% of the population in action. Out of curiosity, does anyone remember how much 3.5% of the population is?
I don't, off the top of my head.
No? Natalia, do you know?
No.
No? No worries. Luckily, I did the math in advance. 3.5% of the population is actually 11 million people.
Yeah.
It's a lot of folks.
A lot of people, yeah.
A lot of people. So I want to invite you just to take a minute and imagine 11 million people. We're spread out all across the US and in Puerto Rico. We're treating each other with respect and kindness. We're looking out for each other. We're working together effectively and efficiently to win a just and equitable energy system that works for all of our communities. So when you imagine 11 million people, I know for me that can be kind of challenging to imagine all of that working, all those people coming together and actually working together. What are some of the challenges that come to mind when you imagine a group that size?
I can share one that I could think of. It's like the communication, how we can stay connected and work towards like the same aim. That could be one.
Totally. Thanks, Natalia. Deepak, any challenges coming to mind for you?
Yeah, like staying on message and having a common theme throughout everyone. And making sure that you have 11 million people that follow the progressive values of
Yeah, totally. Holding that common narrative and expressing the same progressive values. Thanks, y'all. Yeah, I definitely resonate with that. And I'll say that the Seize the Grid core planning team that worked in our structure researched a bunch of different models with these very challenges in mind, as well as others, right? How can we design a structure that can grow to 11 million people and stay together and actually embody the kind of culture that we care about? And to do that, we researched different business models, organizations, structures used by tribal communities and political movements. We even looked to ecological examples, so species that organize in swarms or hives. And what we came up with is a structure that we call our Leaderful community network. So I know that this word, particularly leaderful, is not a really common one. Just out of curiosity, is this a word that you've heard before?
No.
No? So what would you think leaderful means? What does leaderful mean to you?
Sounds like full of leaders.
Yeah, totally. Totally. Yeah, you nailed it. It's even on the next slide. So the first time I learned this expression was from Black Lives Matter. So Alicia Garza, one of the co-founders of the Black Lives Matter movement, describes BLM as a leaderful network and a leaderful movement. And the way I understood this was that, you know, we often have this idea that in a social movement, there's one leader, like a Martin Luther King Jr. or a Malcolm X, or there's a small, tight group of leaders that's calling the shots for everybody from some war room. Well, Black Lives Matter is not like that. They're leaderful. They're full of leaders, each acting in their own community, in the interest of their own community, putting the Black Lives Matter values and strategy into action. And Seize the Grid really seeks to be the same way. We learned a lot from Black Lives Matter. And Garza even points to this definition of leadership from a civil rights activist named James Foreman, which I feel like really speaks to how we understand leadership in our network as well. So Foreman describes leadership as a power achieved not through manipulation and tyranny, not out of self-interest, but as a result of performance, good ideas, hard work, tremendous courage, self-sacrifice, and above all, a spirit of humanity. So really, we aim for our network to be full of leaders, and we aim for them to treat leadership as a practice, not as a position that everyone is invited to take up. So what about this part, community network? What do these words mean to you?
A community that is connected and has a lot of communication going through inside of it.
Yeah, totally. Thanks, Deepak. Natalia, anything that comes to mind for you?
No, the same. I was thinking like it's like groups full, like connected between them, like yeah.
Totally.
I agree. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Community was a real big theme in our design process. And a big part of that is because, for a group, 11 million people in size to stick together, we need to prioritize relationships as much as anything. And so we see community building as central to our strategy as any action we do, as strategic as anything else we do. And honestly, as a network of communities, we trust each other to implement the Seize the Grid strategy in a way that works for each of our communities. And we know that means it's going to look a little different in each place. Even though we're going to operate as a unified front, we know that each of us is going to make Seize the Grid happen in a way that's distinct and unique to the people that we work with, the communities we live with, and the culture there. And we know that means that things are going to be a little bit different everywhere, and we see that as a good thing. This is such a strong part of our structure that we went as far as to name all of our groups campaign communities, to really emphasize this idea that it's not enough for us to put on a good campaign if we're not operating also as a strong community. Cool. So now we're going to get to the fun part of the Prezi. Just going to switch views here. All right. Can you all see this okay?
Yep.
All right, awesome. So this Prezi really is meant to visualize what does this network look like in action? How's it set up? How do we work together? How do we stay together, even as a lot of people in a lot of different places? Cool. So this is where we are right now. We're at a Seize the Grid welcome training. And we've done a lot today, and we're going to do a lot tomorrow to build community. But we know that when we leave, we're each going to be on our own, right? We're going to go off, and we're going to be forming these campaign communities, planning actions and trainings that advance the Seize the Grid strategy in each of the towns that we live in. Some of you are here today with members of those campaign communities, and some of you will be going home and starting new campaign communities with friends. And when we go home, this community that we've been building here at the training, we won't see each other every day, but we're going to stay connected as part of a network. We're going to stay in touch to celebrate successes, coordinate actions, and support each other in everything we're up to. And this network isn't limited just to the people at this training. There are folks all over the US and in Puerto Rico. And in fact, this month, there are 2 other trainings happening where other campaign communities are starting. Like we talked about before, we call this structure a Leaderful community network because there isn't a central leadership team which calls the shots for everybody. Our network is full of leaders, and we trust each campaign community to make smart decisions. This means Seize the Grid will look a little different, like I mentioned, in every place. But we also know there's power in numbers, and that a complete transformation of our energy system can only come if we work together and raise our voices in unity. So for this reason, we do have points of agreement points of unity that are common to all of our campaign communities. We call these points of unity our movement DNA. So you can think of this almost like the DNA that you share in common with other family members. Even though you each grow to be a unique individual, you hold some common traits in common. And that's the same for our movement DNA. Even though each campaign community will grow and evolve and implement the strategy in their own way, we know that we share these common points of unity, and we know that these points of unity keep us strong and keep us united. So our DNA is made up of 4 points, and we've talked about all of them today at the training. It includes our vision, which points us where we're going, our grand strategy, which guides the types of actions we take together, our shared structure, so this community network, which guides how we work together, communicate, and support each other. And it also includes our guiding principles, which protects our organizational culture. Outside these points of agreement, every campaign community is encouraged to experiment, innovate, and do things their own way. Y'all with me so far? Sweet.
Yep.
So there's one more part to our campaign community that's really important. We call this our national campaign community. And you can think of this as being just like any other campaign community, except that it's structured the same way, it holds these points in common, right? But it holds a different purpose. And the purpose of the national campaign community is to develop and maintain systems which support network-wide health, uphold our guiding principles, and create the conditions for a thriving social movement. So it'd be easy to mistake this national campaign community as the group that is calling the shots, or the group that is managing all the folks on the ground. We don't see it that way. The national campaign community is just that which supports the whole network so that we can all do our best work. Anyone from the network is invited to join a team as part of the national campaign community or participate in conversations that can support the whole network. One part of the NCC is a group of coaches, and these folks are going to be getting in touch with you in the next 2 to 3 weeks to offer some support, see how you're doing as you're getting your campaign community started. The coaches especially are going to help as you're just getting launched and plan actions and grow. We know, though, that these coaches can never do everything to support everybody in the network, right? If we have 11 million people, think about how many coaches we would need if we're going to function that way. So ultimately, we need to be able to count on each other to provide peer-to-peer support. We really see being part of a Leaderful community network, meaning that each of us has to step up in our own ways, supporting our campaign communities and supporting each other to the best of our ability. If you see a need, you're encouraged to fill it. If you have an awesome idea, you are encouraged to share it. If your community does something that works, you're encouraged to spread the word. And if you need support, you are encouraged to reach out to the network so we all know how we can show up for you. We know that each one of us has questions and needs, and similarly, each one of us has talents, answers, and resources to offer. And being part of a Leaderful community network means offering and receiving both. To facilitate that kind of communication and mutual support, we use several digital tools. So Slack, which I think some of you will have joined already, this is our primary tool for communication in the network. If you haven't downloaded it already, we ask that you do that before tomorrow morning. We're going to look at it a little bit more in tomorrow's sessions. But this is a place where you can raise questions and answer questions, offer ideas and seek ideas, offer support and receive support. Our wiki, you can think of this like the Seize the Grid tool shed. This is a place to go to find templates, toolkits, and training resources. Everyone in the network is encouraged to develop and upload resources which you think can help the network. And the national campaign community especially is going to be putting things on there that we hope will come in handy. Lastly, we have a campaign website. You can think of this as like the public face of our campaign. It'll announce timely campaign updates, blog stories, and opportunities to get involved for people who are interested in Seize the Grid but haven't yet joined the campaign community. So if you have good ideas for what you'd like to see on the website, things that would support your work the best as possible, we have a digital team for the national campaign community that would love to hear from you and find out how we could make that website work for you. Excellent. So that wraps up the presentation. So the next part of the agenda, this is me taking my hat off, right? For the next part of the agenda, we actually invite people to turn to somebody nearby, share initial reactions and any questions that come to mind, things that excite them about the structure, and any points of confusion. So we can just imagine that we've done that. We've partnered and had those conversations. And then we'd come back to the big group to hear reactions and hear questions. So at this point, I'd love just to hear, either of you have reactions or questions coming to mind based on the presentation that we just went through?
I think it's great. I like it sounds it's something that sounds like a lot of people put a lot of thought into it and sounds very purposeful. I think I've seen this almost twice right now. I don't recognize all of it, but I think Carissa showed me some parts of this, but I think it sounds great. I like it. I like it a lot.
Awesome. Thanks, Deepak.
I have a question. Like, do people may know, like, in those digital support, like it's peer-to-peer support, like you mentioned before, there are going to be available like links and people that are going to reply my messages and give me tools to like I have to use for the campaign.
So I don't think I understand your question. Can you rephrase it one more time?
Yeah, like for the digital support that we have to reestablish, like there are gonna be links and people are gonna be able like to go there and have the tools and support if they wanted like one-on-one or have an additional like orientation in that.
So you're asking like, will there be other opportunities for people to get support for using those tools after they leave the training? Yeah, that's a great question. I think so. What kind of support are you imagining? What do you think would be helpful?
I don't know. I was just thinking about like, especially like the one-on-ones, if there are going to be people available for that, like coaches.
Yeah, totally. That's a great question. So, as I understand it, the plan for coaches is that they will be getting in touch with the people who attend the welcome trainings within 2 to 3 weeks of the training. And that'll be a chance to talk through challenges and questions that are coming up. And they'll also at that time be kind of interviewing people to ask what kind of support they would like on an ongoing basis. So the coaches will take that information, they'll get together and they'll come up with a plan and they'll share that back out. And we know that will evolve over time, but the hope was that would allow the coaches to make their plan in a way that would feel customized to the needs of the folks.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's a great question. Any other questions coming up? No? All right, cool. All right. So this went way faster than I expected. We're already at the away part. So the instructions are pretty simple. So recognizing that we each need to step up and be leaders, treat leadership as a practice. I want to pause for a second, and I want to invite you just to think of one leader that you admire. And then write down one quality you see in them that you want to put into practice in your own leadership. And once you've done that, turn to someone nearby and share with them what you wrote down and why. And I'm actually going to invite us just to do this ourselves. So I'm going to write one down for myself. Let's just take a couple beats. Think of a leader, write down one quality, and then we'll share them as a way to close. When you're ready, just give a thumbs up so that we know. All right. Sweet. Anyone want to go first?
Yeah, I would like to start. Well, I have like a leader, Teresa de Calcuta, like the nun. Like I admire like her passion and devotion that she had like over the years when she like give herself to help others.
I love that. What was the person's name?
Teresa de Calcuta.
Is that the same as who we call Mother Teresa?
Yeah.
Cool.
That's the one.
Strong choice. Deepak?
I don't know if I can pinpoint this to a specific leader, but I thought of the personality trait first, and the personality trait was to be a personable person, to have a personal relationship seemingly with all the people that they've connected with. And I can point this to like Obama or like Martin Luther King. Whenever you see them speak, you somehow see that like every single person that they're interacting with, they always seem to like, even if they have just met them, they can like build a personal connection with them within a couple minutes. And I think that's really important and really cool to do within any movement, because strong relationships is the only way you can start anything. Without strong personal relationships with another person, trust can't be built. And I think like that's where trust comes off of, strong.
Awesome. Totally. Thank you. I'll share too. I was thinking of both Nelson Mandela, the South African anti-apartheid leader, and then also various Buddhist teachers that I really admire. Like there's a guy named Thich Nhat Hanh who I really like. And I see in all of these folks a quality of radical love and generosity. I was thinking particularly about Nelson Mandela was imprisoned and mistreated by the ruling government for a really long time. I don't know the number off of my head, but years and years. And when he was set free, he was elected president, and instead of acting out of retribution, he said that his first priority was reconciliation. He wanted people to be forgiven and welcomed into society, and I just think that's really beautiful. And I don't know, I was thinking about that last night. I talked to a Trump supporter who came to troll this rally I was at, and it's just like, I kind of lost my cool at one point, but he really I think the best points of our conversation were ones where we were treating each other with that radical love and generosity.
That's something that's like really hard to do. Like for some, like this is like the most personal thing that I've ever felt in like a progressive movement. Like, I don't know, climate change fight is like very personal to me too, but for some reason an attack on like immigration rights feels, I mean, it makes sense, I'm an immigrant, but it feels so much personal. And I get physically angry sometimes, but it seems like such a hard thing to do, for like to come back and take the people that imprisoned you, that colonized you,
totally,
that enslaved you, and then go back and like say, all right, we got to start over completely.
Yeah, I feel you. It is hard. I think it's like deeply spiritual, and I don't think we can really expect it of anyone, but I it's a standard that I aspire to. Word. Well, for people who get to watch the video, you get to hear our fun conversations about leadership. When you're preparing for this training, you can close by doing a go around and having people share. If there's enough time and there's enough energy, you can just popcorn a few ideas out, or if you're short on time, you can just leave it at the parent share. But just as a final note, this session segues into a training called our guiding principles, where we're going to much greater depth about what our guiding principles are, why we have them, and what it means for each of us to be embodying them. So you can close the training by just letting folks know that we're going to take a 5-minute break or something. When we come back, we're going to be digging into one of the key pieces of that movement DNA we were talking about in this session. All right, I'm going to stop the recording.